Alright then, it's Don Huddersfield here, and today we're going to do something different. We're not talking about a fast food brand that caught the public's imagination, or a pop star who sold out stadiums. We're going to instead talk about one of the biggest economic illusions of the 21st century, the AI bubble. How it got so big, why it lasted so long, and why it's finally starting to burst. Even if you're not that interested in tech, there's a big chance this will be relevant to you, especially if you've read lots of stories about how no one's going to have a job in a few years. And for a lot of us, it's personal, especially me, who in a former life earned a pretty good living as a copywriter and content writer. If you want to understand how the AI bubble got so big, cast your mind back to late 2022 when ChatGPT first dropped and the world collectively lost its mind. ChatGPT was more than just an app, it was a cultural event and some say the fastest growing consumer product in history. Within days of its launch, students were writing essays in seconds, coders with no experience were generating entire apps, marketers were pumping out content, CEOs were bragging about replacing workers, and journalists were calling it the future of everything. It felt like magic, like a cheat code and the beginning of a new era, and because it was free, everyone used it. Everyone. By early 2023, the hype had gone into overdrive. There were headlines everywhere saying, AI is going to replace 300 million jobs. It's the new electricity, it'll transform the economy, and if you don't want to be left homeless and impoverished, you've got to adapt or die, or pivot. Companies didn't want to be left behind, and investors didn't want to miss the next gold rush. Tech giants didn't want to lose market share. And that's why the entire world sprinted headfirst into AI adoption without stopping to ask, can this scale, is it sustainable? Does this even work as well as we think it does? Or what's going to happen when nobody has any money to buy our products in the first place? So in 2023, companies started firing their writers, editors, designers, marketing staff, and so on en masse. A lot of it wasn't because AI was better, although it was cheaper for a while. A big reason was in fact that executives were terrified of seen as being left behind. So people like me and millions of others were part of the first wave. We were hit very early on, painfully early. And for a while it felt like the media were kind of ignoring this, so when I spoke to other people about it, they found it hard to relate to. Because it took a while for the stories about job losses to really get in the headlines. Politicians were overwhelmingly positive about it, saying it was going to create more jobs than it replaced, and people like Keir Starmer saying he wanted the UK to be a world leader in artificial intelligence. You didn't hear him saying anything about hallucinations, inaccuracies, copyright issues, energy consumption, GPU shortages, the insane compute costs, or the human fallout. Meanwhile, the only way to get some expert opinion on what was really going on was to go to places like YouTube, who were urgently telling the world that AI wasn't cheap because it was subsidised so heavily, it was burning money at a terrifying rate. But that story wasn't really getting into the headlines at that point. This is something people still don't understand, how expensive AI is to run. AI is not like a website or an app, it's not even like streaming video. Running a modern AI model is like running a mini power station every time someone asks a question. Here's why. Firstly, GPU clusters cost millions. These aren't gaming GPUs, they're industrial grade compute units which cost tens of thousands each. And you need thousands of them. Electricity costs are insane as well. AI models burn through electricity like nothing else in tech. You also need cooler systems. All these GPUs generate loads of heat and cooling them costs a fortune. With data centers, AI companies need entire buildings full of hardware just to keep the lights on. There's also inference costs. Every time you type a prompt, the model has to load weights, run calculations, evaluate thousands of possible next tokens, and apply safety layers and re-rank outputs. And all of this costs real money. Autonomous agents can multiply costs by more than 1,000. One agent loop can burn more compute than a human uses in 1 month. So if you're wondering why AI was so cheap to begin with, that's because it was subsidised. AI companies had hidden the true cost behind free trials and cheap plans and supposedly unlimited usage, venture capitalist money and corporate partnerships. They made AI look cheap so adoption would explode and individuals and businesses would get addicted to it. And lots of them did. But now the bill has arrived and the investors want their money back. and then some. If you want to know a perfect example of how insane AI economics have become, then look at Uber, the multi-million-dollar Silicon Valley giant that literally burned through its whole annual 2026 AI coding budget in just 4 months. This isn't rumour or speculation, it's been confirmed by Uber's own CTO. This happened because Uber rolled out Anthropic's Claude Code to 5,000 engineers and then created an internal leaderboard which actually rewarded engineers for using AI as much as possible. They gamified token burning and turned AI usage into a competition, and the result was the average cost per engineer was between $150 and $250 per month, with power users going through $500 to $2,000 per month. Even Uber's CTO personally burned $1,200 in a 2-hour demo, and it obliterated their budget. Uber's meltdown proves something the AI industry just doesn't want to admit. AI is a slot machine disguised as a productivity tool. You don't pay for just access to AI, you're paying for every spin of a wheel, every prompt, every token, every agent loop, every accidental infinite loop, every engineer who uses it like Google. And the more times you put a prompt in and slightly reword it to get something right, the more tokens you're burning through. And because AI companies sold the illusion that AI was cheap, businesses weren't monitoring usage. Uber literally encouraged employees to use more, even gamifying it with leaderboards, which is like a casino handing out free chips and then acting shocked when people gamble. Ed Citron has been one of the only voices saying what everyone else didn't want to say. AI is not profitable, it's not sustainable, it's unlikely to replace humans in the long run. AI companies are burning money at a stupid rate. The media is complicit in being dishonest about AI. The economics only work if someone else pays the bill, and the hype about AI has been masking a financial disaster. He's called it a compute bubble, a system where companies pretend AI is the future whilst quietly drowning in GPU bills. The AI boom created a closed money loop between Nvidia and the AI labs. It worked like this. Firstly, investors would give billions to AI companies would spend it all on Nvidia GPUs, Nvidia's stock would skyrocket, investors would see Nvidia's stock skyrocket and think AI is the future. They'd invest even more money into AI companies would buy even more Nvidia GPUs. Repeat. This was what people call a circular economy of hype. The money wasn't creating value, it was just going around in a circle, from investors to OpenAI to Nvidia to investors to OpenAI to Nvidia. Everyone looked rich on paper and successful and like a genius, but none of it was profitable or sustainable, none of it was real. It was a bubble inflated by the same dollars moving around in circles. Here's something else that nobody in Silicon Valley wants to talk about. AI companies aren't going public because they're successful, they're going public because they're running out of money. Private investors who funded the hype cycle are pulling back and the compute costs are exploding. The burn rates are catastrophic, so the only place left to get billions more is the public markets. It's not a victory lap, it's a bailout. It's the same playbook as Uber. Lose billions privately, go public, lose billions publicly, and hope the hype lasts long enough to figure out profitability later. Except with AI, the costs scale with usage, not revenue. It's a slot machine that gets more expensive the more you pull the lever. The recent 500 million Claude bill was just one explosion. Uber burning its entire budget in 4 months was a second. Microsoft scaling back was a third. GPU shortages were the fourth. Energy costs were the fifth. And now everyone's realising the same thing. AI is unlikely to replace humans in the long term. It is now replacing cheap labour with expensive compute, and expensive compute doesn't scale. The bubble isn't bursting because AI failed as much as because the economics were just a fantasy. So what will happen next? As AI becomes more expensive, companies will cut usage, agencies will return to humans, editing AI output will become a job, human labour will become valuable again. The hype cycle will collapse and the market will stabilise. At least we hope so anyway. I'm Don Huddersfield, and that was How Did the AI Bubble Get So Big? See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe.